Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our SwiftUI tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at integrating with user defaults in our SwiftUI applications using the AppStorage property wrapper. Now, what is user defaults? Well, user defaults is a framework in macOS, AppKit, whatever you want to call it, AppKit, UIKit, SwiftUI. For all of Apple's platforms, user defaults is available. Now, user defaults is a method of persisting storage for an application, with the one caveat being that you can only store small amounts of data. The amount of data you can store in user defaults is generally limited. So this is usually meant and usually used for user settings. So for example, in iOS, you'll often see settings for apps in the Settings app. All those settings, those are stored in user defaults, and then the apps themselves can reach out to user defaults to get those settings. Now, there is one big thing that we need to talk about with user defaults, and that is privacy manifests. So what is a privacy manifest? Well, a privacy manifest is a file that you need to put into your iOS, watchOS, visionOS, tvOS applications if you're using user defaults, or any number of other system APIs or third-party packages that Apple has explicitly listed in their documentation for required reasons APIs. Now, user defaults on every platform except macOS is one of those required reasons APIs. So you have to have a very specific reason for why you need to use user defaults, and you need to specify what that reason is, and your app cannot go beyond that reason, because if it does, your app will be rejected in the App Store review process. Now, in the description, I have the documentation for privacy manifests and required reasons APIs linked, and then I also have a tool by Donnie Walls, a iOS developer from the Netherlands. Tool. He has a tool out there for generating a privacy manifest file, so you don't have to go in and edit it in the very crappy, in my opinion, Xcode plist editor style thing to set up your privacy manifests. All right. Now, with all of that out of the way and explained, how do we use the AppStorage property wrapper to access user defaults? Well, let's say we have our main view in a SwiftUI application. So inside of Xcode, I have a content view struct, and this struct is pretty empty right now. But what if we have a tab view and we have a couple tabs inside of it? So we'll say maybe text Mac dot tab item label laptop, or rather Mac, with a system image of laptop computer text iPhone with a tab item label iPad and a system image of iPad, and then text. Well, actually, we'll just leave this be as is. 3 tabs. Pretty simple stuff. We can run this code here. And we have a successful build. It's just got to load and kind of do its normal thing here. All right, so here we are. We have Mac, iPad, and we should have iPhone here, but it appears that we do not for whatever reason. Let's take a look at what we got here. Ah, okay, I see. I messed up. Instead of iPad, it'll be iPhone. iPhone. And then we'll have text iPhone dot tab item label iPhone comma system image iPhone. All right. So when we run our code again, so here's our app. We have Mac, iPhone, and then iPad. Okay. iPad. 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 Okay. But what if, right? What if we want to persist the selected tab in our tab view? Well, the first thing that we'll need to do is we'll need to create a variable to store that selection. So, at the top of our view, above our body, we can say at AppStorage, and then inside of these parentheses, we need to give it a string representing the key in UserDefaults that we want to store our specific bit of data alongside. And this string has to be unique because UserDefaults needs a way to uniquely identify the data you're trying to retrieve. So I will have this be tutorial app SwiftUI dot selected dash tab. All right. Then we're going to say var selected tab, and this is going to be an integer. Now, there are certain types that you can't store in user defaults, but the most safe types to store in user defaults are primitives, booleans, strings, integers, doubles, those kinds of types. All right. So we have int, and then we'll give it a default value for it to use if it can't find a value at the given key. And then that default value will then be saved to user defaults. So we'll set this equal to 0. Next, we need to apply a selection binding to our tab view. So we'll say selection $ selected tab. So why are we able then to do this here? Why are we able to use an AppStorage variable as a binding? Well, that's because AppStorage acts very similar to state, where you can make a change to it and it'll send a change notification to the view, causing everything to re-render. However, it also goes out and stores that new value in user defaults every time it changes. All right. So the last thing that we need to do is we need to apply a tag to each of these views for our tab view, because as it stands right now, the tab view isn't going to get an integer, it's going to get a string. So we need to say .tag 0. .tag 1 and .tag 2. Now we can run our code again. Okay, we have a build failure, so let's see what we did wrong. Extra trailing closure, it says. Okay. So aha, I see. There we go. Save, run. Now we have a successful build. So here we are. In our toolbar, we have our Mac, iPhone, and iPad tabs. Right now it's set to Mac, because the default value stored in user defaults is 0. And we set the tag to the Mac tab as 0. So what we'll do is let's select iPad, quit our app, and rerun it. When we go into our toolbar, you can see Mac isn't selected, iPhone isn't selected, but iPad is selected. And that's because 2, the tag for iPad, has been saved to user defaults. We can change this to, say, Mac again. We can close out of our app and run it again. And now Mac is selected even after reopening our application. We can select iPhone, close our app, and rerun it. And iPhone is selected. So you kind of get the idea of how this works. And with that, that pretty much does it for how we can interact with user defaults in SwiftUI. It is the exact same across every platform that supports the AppStorage property wrapper. There's literally no difference in how you use it. So thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.